And what we've done so far is just copy the database script from Canvas. All right, so what would we need to do for a new login? What would the store procedure need to do? What? If you're doing these, I mean, the real trick, other than following me, is to figure out what you would do with them. Do you have something, Sarah?
Well, I'm going to procedure, usually start with what am I taking?
Sure, input, output, right? So the input would be, basically, we'd probably want to take in the password, username, all the information, right? I'm just going to, all the info that we need for the table. Can't type. Which we could look at in just a second. What would the output be then? What I would do if we were talking from a web page is I would probably want the user key as the output. And then they could start a session after they register, right, as output. Right, so one of the things that we need to do, so we need to write to user login table. We should also write to the security question table. And this is optional, but I think we should maybe write to login history. Okay. And we probably want to put all that in a transaction. Basically so that it's ACID, so that it all happens or none of it happens. Okay, is that all we need to do? I think that makes sense, actually. I'm just asking. Yeah, so double parens in this. Part of what's happened here is that I have word wrap on. Does that look better? Okay, so let's start a procedure. Let's make sure that we're in login test. If you want, you can do use login test, but we should be in there. And we'll create a procedure. I'm going to call it USP new login. And then what we need are all of our parameters. So if we look at login history, not login history, if we look at user login, we need the name. We don't need the key because it's a auto number. And I have it as 255.
It's
50, so let's do 50. Email, that one's 255, I'm sure. We don't need the random int or the password or the date entered or the date last modified because we can generate those. But we do need which password, which question they're going to do. So I'm going to say at security question. And in this, actually, all we need is the number of the question. And then we need their answer. Which should probably be in var car 255. I think that's all we need, isn't it? For a new login. Now you have to imagine that there's a form on a web page or that's something where they're going to enter this. They're not going to interact directly with this. When you do an ASP.NET thing, though, you can call this method and it will treat it, this procedure, and it'll treat it as a method in which you will have to provide this information, those parameters. You'll have to pass that in. So it's like a method with parentheses, and these values have to be in the parentheses. So I'm going to declare some variables. You don't have to declare these at the top, but I will declare what variables will we need. We're going to need like the random number, right? We're going to need the hashed password. I'm just going to call it hash. We're going to need the date. And we can use for this first one, the user date entered and the user date last modified are the same. So we can do that. Is there anything else that we need for internal variables there? As I said, if I were, typically when I'm writing these, I declare them as I need them, but it's probably clearer to declare them like that. All right, so let's get some of these values. The random we can get set int, add int random. Actually, I think I need select. Select at int random equals DBO fx get random int. That's actually all we have to do. So we're assigning the value from the function to this variable. And I think I need select. You could try set. But usually functions have to be used in the context of a select statement. Mm-hmm. We're going to do the same now with select at hash equals DBO fx hash password, and we want to do the at password comma at int random. Right, so we're passing it the seed or the, did I not do it at password? We need their password. It doesn't matter where you put it up here. I just, what did I do for password? You're right, but this is actually, we just want their character. So let's just do 50. We just want, this is their plain text password. They're not going to do it with a hash. All right, so this creates the hash. If you want, it can be really useful later to do something like declare internal variables, get random trying to think of the word that I want. I'm going to say seed, but that's not the word I want. Comments are not a bad idea in any programming. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to start the transaction. You guys with me still? And I'll close this.
So using password user.
So I just added a password and I made it 50 characters. It's not in the table because in the table we're not going to store the plain password. We're just going to store the hash of the password. So we get that, and then what I'm going to do is I am going to begin the transaction. In a way, I'm not sure that needs commented because it's pretty clear. And then I'm going to do begin try. And the reason the transaction has to be bigger than the try is that the catch has to have the rollback. And the reason I'm doing a transaction is we're going to be inserting into 3 tables. If it fails on any one of those tables, you don't want fragments left. You want to roll it all back. So you want all of it to, all the inserts to work or none of them. So I am going to insert into, we'll do user login first. And basically, I'm just going to pull the columns over, but I'm going to get rid of user. Actually, I'm not sure if that's worth doing because actually, yeah, we want all of those. Never mind, we do want all of those. For values, the username will be at username, user email at user email, at random int. This one will be hash. It was an int random. Okay, thank you. This one would be at hash where it says password. And then I'm going to do at date and at date. As I said, they can be the same. Although we didn't assign date a value yet. So up here we can do set at date equals get date. So it'll set it to the current date. No semicolon. I forgot to do that. Okay, does that make sense? So that's our first insert. Okay, and then we're going to insert into security question, or actually not into security question, but into, what is the name of that table? User security question. Okay, so it's the same thing. Insert into user security question. And there's one other thing that we're going to need to do here, but let's finish this one real quick. I'm going to open that, drag in the columns. Although we could do it right here. How do we get the user key? Because the user key has just been created. Well, there's a built-in function. That actually will give you the user key. The other thing you could do is you could create a variable for it, which is what I meant to do, and then assign it to there and then just insert the variable there. But you can actually do the function straight there if you want. I'll walk through this if it works to review it. Then we need the question key, which was up at the parameters. Actually, what did I call it? I just called it security question. Went up too far. Yeah, I called it security question. So let's call it security question here too. And then add answer, yeah. Okay, so this is our second insert. And then what we need is insert into login history. And I'll just comment that. I cannot type. So in login history, basically, we don't need the very first thing, which is just a auto number. So we need just the user key. This is a good reason why it would have been to assign it to a variable. We can do the same ident current. And then I'm just going to do get date. We could use the current date thing. Actually, since we have it, let's just use that date. So because we have to use ident current twice, it probably would have made it, oh, and I didn't write values. It probably would have made it more logical to make a variable for that. So I'm going to do commit tran, and I'm going to say return, and we need the user key.
Do you need to finish or do your catch before you finish it?
No, you do the commit first, because it never goes into the cache unless there's an error. That's why the tran is outside the try, because it has to have the scope greater than the try catch.
Right, but so for the there, so you don't write catch, it just.
I will do catch. I will, yeah. One of the things I think I am going to do though is I am going to, because it just makes life easier, right above here, I am going to declare at user equals, and then I'm going to say ident current user, this one. And then I'm just going to do user key in here, at user key. And then I'm going to do the same here, at user key. And then I'm going to return at user key. Why does it not like at user key?
Did you use the words?
Oh. No, I'm just. I'm just used to C# where you can declare a variable and what is it not like about that? Oh, I didn't give it a value. Int. Okay.
Wait, was just.
So you know how I had declare at user key equals ident current? You can't do that. In SQL, you cannot declare something and assign it a value in the same statement. So what I did is declare at user key int. set at user key equals ident current user login. And then wherever I had ident current user login, I did at user key, at user key. And the reason I did it beyond just the efficiency of that is I need to return a value. And I wanted to return the user key, right? So, whoa, what did I just do? And then I'm going to do end try. And then I need to do begin catch. I'll go through it. I'll walk through. And then I am going to do rollback, tran, and I'm going to return 0. Actually, all stored procedures return 0 by default. But you can make them return something else. So like if we return the user key. We can't see that in SQL. We could see it if we were to write a C# program and just do int key equals and call the stored procedure. It would give a value to that key. It actually, I've done this before. It actually does return that value, but you can't see it in this window.
Like, it doesn't like user key or the int current for some reason.
Okay, let me do int catch.
Like the int.
Right, because you can't declare it at the same time. So let me go back up there. I did that at first, so I did that to you. I broke that into 2 statements.
So
Declare at user key int, set at user key. Because you can't declare them and set them at the same time.
You have like double like added and added on line 1.
I wanted them to be there. One is the date that they were first entered, and the other is the date that the record was modified. And on this is a new login, so those dates are the same. A lot of databases, I don't always do this in the ones we use for samples, but it's really typical to have like timestamps for every record you enter. All right. I don't know that this is going to work 100%, so let's try it and then I'll walk through it if it works. So I'm going all the way up to create proc. So if mine, the fact that it works successfully as a procedure doesn't necessarily mean it works, right? It just means that there's no syntax errors in
So
it.
mine did.
Okay.
It doesn't like insert. It doesn't like rollback track.
Well, let me see if it works as it's supposed to, and then I can help you guys fix the errors.
No.
We'll
hover over it. Incorrect syntax here, insert.
I will come back and if it works, I will.
Can you oh, yeah.
So I need programmability, stored procedures. I want to drag the folder for the
That's why.
parameters.
Oh, so you haven't finished everything yet. Oh, you did. It's just. So there's probably just a weird. Well, it's basically this is telling you where it's wrong because it's not formatting.
Right.
Because this should be down here.
Here.
Anybody have a name that we should enter?
Oh.
So now finally you can.
I'll just do me. And I'm going to just do p at ssw0rd. 1. Email.
You gotta end your
back. Oh,
So, it's any caption.
okay.
This is something you don't have to do, but I don't remember the security question. Select star. Wow.
Right here.
Oh,
There we go.
So now.
What alcoholic drink made you the sickest? So question would be
So
3.
109 Or sorry, one.
I don't know what did make me. I think it was straight shots of tequila.
More things here, which is 'cause you.
Oh, take it out.
How do you spell tequila? Is that right?
Close enough.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It just if you were to do this for real, you'd have to be able to respond to that.
Now that you probably did that in another place too. So 140.
I think it worked, so then we can walk through it.
Wait. Oh. No, you inserted in too many. So the fact that you created at user key means you can remove the edit.
Right here, right here. Okay.
So you also did that on the platform.
So do you still do values?
Well. So yeah, so now go down. We need to remove it from there too.
So user security question. Can't. So it worked in,
Yes.
So you
and then from login history, and just
checking.
checking to see if it actually wrote. It says it did. This is actually just. So it wrote. So it wrote the user password, the time, and then it did the random question. The user key is 1, the question key is 3, login history is 1, user key is 1, and the login history time.
So when you run this, the exe,
And
that's they make it for your new one. So
Right.
Number 3, right? The security question number 3.
Right. That's the third.
So,
The third question. Yeah.
so when you log in, they will ask you this one, or you pick it and you.
So
can
when you
go
log in, if they don't always ask it every time, but if you want to do something like change your password, or if you're coming in from a browser they're not used to or something, then they will ask the security question. Some of them do ask it every time.
Yeah, sometimes like a public computer or a personal computer and stuff, and then they do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a new login. Do you guys want to walk through that, or do you have it? Just
Do you
this
want us
part?
to do that?
Well, this is just to test it, to make sure that it will write. This only works for new login, so what we have to do next is to figure out how to a returning login, right? You don't have to enter these same values. You can enter whatever you want. As long as each one of these has a value, that you can enter whatever. Is that how you spell tequila?
No.
How do you spell tequila? What?
One L.
1L.
There's only one L in tequila? I guess it'd be tequila if you did 2 L's. Yeah, I think there often are a lot of zeros. I think it actually is only 3 digits and then a bunch of zeros. There's probably a better way to do it than the nanosecond. I just did selects
Oh,
from each of the tables. It also should say three rows, etc.
What's
Yeah.
above security, add security question? Right it just if you could scroll up a little bit. This one's, oh, okay.
You scroll up.
You want security questions, 3.
Do you want me to walk through the whole thing
You scroll down.
further?
Yeah.
This is the part that I changed at the last minute because I realized I didn't want to use the function everywhere. It makes more sense to call this once and then assign it to a variable and use the variable everywhere. Yeah.
Try to do subqueries of pick a key where.
Yeah, it is. I mean, what you could do, there's also a function called it's actually a variable, add identity, and it returns the last identity created in the database. The chances are like 99% that will be the one from the most, because we just inserted. So the chances are that identity will be correct, but there's that 1% out of 100%. There's that 1% chance that somebody else slipped in there. It's really unlikely, but this is table specific, so this one's.
It's not recognizing indent current as
It's ident current, like identity.
ID.
Oh, wow, I just had a, okay.
Oh, you had the N and the D.
Yeah.
This function, by the way, is if you were using a key that wasn't an auto number, it wasn't an identity, you would have to do a subquery to go find the key. Right? Because this only returns it if you're auto number. Ident current
Yeah, I
returns
get
the
the
last identity, last auto number from this table. If you if you were making your keys some other way, it wouldn't find it. It wouldn't return anything. In that case, what you'd have to do is just couldn't be max. You might have to do a subquery where you're just looking for the key with all those other values. Yeah. All right. Are we ready for a login one yet, or you guys need a moment? Is it still giving you an error? Did you run this last? No. This place. So the rows affected.
It's really down there
It's not showing an error.
because we make sure like insert security, but make sure that you use a key. What was it?
Yeah. One of the things
Oh,
that I
no,
might
use
do
that. Use it. Yeah.
actually,
Oh, yeah, add security question. Yeah.
And it answers all these things.
It's gone.
What is it?
What does it say? Oh, why do you have her over?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you don't have to click it. You spelled it wrong. Give me a chance.
Hyphen. Oh, okay.
Right there. There we go. And then still username something. Did you put send? Here, right below declaring. Set user key. Username, user key, values.
Also have that. Then there's a username. User
You set, set equals.
Now I have that. A parentheses at the end, but no in the beginning. See over here? There at that last, no. Right below that,
Now run
right
that.
there, there's a whole.
Not that, yeah.
I mean, do you need that? Yeah. That's fine. Yay. Now run it. Oh, wait, this is. Now, just,
Let's look. Run this again. Yes.
here, let's go to the password editors.
The answer.
Do you have it right up here? User passwords or at password?
Maybe it's
Let's see.
log in. User. Actually, not user. login.
No, wait, over here, that next. Let's see.
Yeah, so
What does
it's
it
not
say?
the question, but the user security question.
Do you have a comma
So it says that the answer is the answer should be-
after each one? Oh, no. Yeah, you need a comma after. So,
So what you can do is you can alter the table. Yeah. Alter the table, drop that,
oh, yeah. No.
well, does anybody else have an integer for the answer that it worked for everybody else? Right?
What do you mean? For,
So in the original description of the table when I did the user security question, the answer was an int, but it shouldn't be. Well, because this is the actual answer, it should be text, it should be inbox. And I changed it in Canvas, but I wonder if it didn't update it or something. Does anybody else have that problem?
let me see, did you wanted us to change something? Yeah.
No, I don't want you to change anything if it was correct. I had originally done a mistake. Hers is the original version.
Oh, maybe that's wrong.
But, so what you want to do is you want to alter table, user security question, drop column, answer, user answer, and then alter again and add it back in as in bar card. So,
What about if you drop the table again?
well, you could run the whole thing from the top again, I guess. All right. So the next step would be to create a stored procedure for a login for an existing user. So what do we need for an existing user? What are the steps? I think it's always useful and it could be useful to do a little bit more than what we're doing too, to go through and figure out the logic of what you're doing before you do it, particularly with SQL, because I think when you look at this SQL, this store procedure there, I don't know what it is, but store procedures are really hard to read. And it's really easy to get lost in them. So I think it makes good sense to go through and this is true of all programming, but especially I think these store procedures, to make sure you know exactly what steps you're doing to make sure that those steps are in there. So for an existing login, we're going to need, what is their intake? I think it's just going to be their password. They're not the hash, but the actual text password and the username. Right? If you think of a usual login, that's all that's there. And I don't think I'm going to ask the security question for this one, though you could. All right, when you get the password, what do you have to do in username? How are you going to tell if it's valid or not? And this is a bit weird. It's a bit of a... Right, you have to get the salt. So basically get the salt that goes with the username. Now, one of the things, I gave them a username, but one of the things about emails is that they're nicer for this in a way because they're supposed to be semi-unique. But so you get the salt that goes with the username. You rehash the text password with the salt. And then you match the hashes. Compare the hashes. Okay, so if they match, the login is successful. So I would probably return the user key. And then if they fail, return probably 0. Does that make sense? So in the program, if they get the user key back, remember you could write it to a session variable or whatever, and you could, on a web page, you could customize the session to that user.
I mean, I almost want to return something like -1 if the username isn't there.
That's a possibility. I mean, you could do a few ifs, I guess. So,
But it's,
so
-1.
but if I were, you don't want to give a number that's an int that's not 0 because it confuses you.
Okay.
right, and so there is like already in there is a 1. So basically, yeah, negative number. So get the salt that goes with the username. I'm just going to do that's actually probably a nice thing to, because if there's no username, and you could decide, on the application side, if you get a -1, you could say, tell them that the username doesn't exist, or you may not. They're usually pretty vague on these. They usually just say either the username or the password doesn't match.
And sometimes you get it will tell you the rest of your password if you put in the wrong username.
Yeah.
So that would be mine. If 0 comes back, tell them the rest of the password. If -1 comes back, tell them to try again.
Although part
But
of the security reasons, they usually don't want you to know which one you screwed up.
They don't want you to know that you figured out the correct username.
Yeah. So that's why they're usually vague about it. They actually don't want you to know which one you screwed up, which can be a pain, I know, because I've gone, okay. And then if you do, you could do a 3 times you're out kind of thing too. which is a real pain. I do too.
Sometimes it's just like you forget which password.
I know. I so many passwords. All right. So, but we could do that. I mean, we could do that if you want. So, basically, we just create a procedure. And you can write procedure if you prefer. I'm going to call it USP login as opposed to new login. And I think the only things we need are the password and the username. You actually might, although it doesn't actually matter what order you put these in, because you could, as long as you refer to them by their names, they could go in any order. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. All right. And then store procedures always start with as. And the reason for the little red things is that these should be in their own little batch. Go. All right, so going through our logic. Let's declare a couple of things. So let's do at, I guess we called it int random before, it doesn't matter, but I'll do it again here. Declare, should we read, well, we will need the hash. It's not in varchar, it's var binary. Actually, so what we want to know is this is the, let's do this as new hash. Or maybe DB hash rather than old. What else do we need? So we need their hash, we need their user, we got their username, we're going to do a query based on the username. Maybe that's all we need. Can always come back. Okay, so I'm going to do select at int random equals user random int. Comma. That's in the actual database, what it's named. It would make sense. I should name things a little bit better, as always. And then I'm going to say, so at db hash equals user password. From user login, where username equals at username. Now, one of the things that you might want to do here, even if you don't return this, if you could say if, how do we want to, if they're null, if it doesn't return anything, we probably just want to abort at this point.
Well, that's, you return a zero from there.
You could do a return here, don't stop. But I'm trying to think of how we test if it's empty. We could just say if at new hash equals null. Or if at, we don't have new hash yet. If at db hash equals null, or if at username equals null. Just to test if one of these is null. Then we just return -1 or 0, whatever you want to do. Let's try. I'm not sure if this will work, but I wonder if hash is the one to test. Might be the salt would be better to test. Because the salt is bigger, I mean, it's smaller. If at int random is null, so basically, once we do this test, we return that. If it didn't find any value, this should end the stored procedure right here.
So you run it?
No, we're not done yet. I mean, this is just if they don't exist. Then there's the other thing is if the password is wrong. This just says that they're not returning anything. So the user, this is basically if the username is wrong. So in the password, basically what we need to do is we need to set, actually I think we want to do select at new hash. And it will do this, this will only happen if this is null, right? This is going to equal, and then fx underscore, is that right? What did I name my function? We used it up above. I just want fx get random int. The other one is fx hash password. My IntelliSense isn't helping me.
It's now 910.
Oh, you know why it's not doing that? Because I didn't do DBO. You always have to give the user. So when we do this, we need to give it the @ password and then the @int random. Okay, so this is assuming that int random did get returned, that there's a value there. So we're going to get the new hash. And then we're going to compare if at db hash equals, and this is a question, but we'll try it, equals new hash, at new hash. We don't necessarily need the begin end for one line. It's kind of like other languages where it can be. Oh, we didn't bring up here in the select, I'm going to also add @user key, which did we declare that? I knew there was something else I wanted up here. So, because we want to return their user
What did you
key.
declare that into?
It's an int, yeah. Declare at user key as int. And then I added it to the select at user key equals user key. Because if they equal, we want to return at user key. And then we want to do else return 0. All right, so I don't know. I'm not 100% sure that this equal works, but let's try. Comparing hashes is a bit complicated. So I have an if and an else. So if the hashes match, return the user key. It means it's a good password. Otherwise, return 0. I'm going to try this. I think it'll build like that, but I don't know if it will work. So I'm going to refresh stored procedures done here. I'm going to get actually this is just for login. I'm going to get the parameters. My password was p at ssw0rd1. My username was spconger. Again, if you did something different, do what you did. I do not know. Actually, here's the thing. I'm not going to know. Oh, the other thing we should do up in this stored procedure, which I didn't do. Anybody? Yeah, there would be something so we could print. That would be good. Print the returns would be good. The other thing would be to write it to the login table, login history. But for right now, we can add that. But for right now, let's just, I'm going to do print user key. In real life, you wouldn't necessarily want this, but we're not going to know if this worked. Oh, and I think this will be a problem to print.
You have to do the same for one above.
I'm just trying to get it so we have some output. And then I have to alter.
As for some reason.
Print has to be character type.
What do you mean? Like,
You can't print an integer, you have to print a character. So I'm just printing a 0, and you can't do it after the return.
where? I'm getting confused now.
This is totally extra. This is just because we can't see if it works or not.
Had to use this one up there.
What is it?
And
Can we go up
line.
the select the new hash?
Yeah.
And
then
this
the
is
count
just
zero.
zero?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
What if I new hash was?
And
And
those
zero has to
prints.
be enclosed.
Okay, for, not for the return, but.
But yeah,
Print
at
only
the
for object
hash.
characters.
Right.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, you have to do it. Yeah. And then it's binary.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to
hash.
alter my procedure.
You hash, okay.
Again, the stuff that I added is just so we can know whether it works or not. And it worked. I know it worked because it returned 1. 1 is the user key.
Did you put in the print -1 also?
I did I did do a print up there. And again, the prints are just so that in this environment, we can see whether we succeeded or not. There's one other thing we should add to this store procedure.
Are you ready?
Did you alter?
Did you run all everything?
What?
Did you run all everything same time?
So you have to recreate.
Those
So you go all the way up to the top and to alter.
Okay.
But don't include the execute in the stored procedure. That has the effect of creating and self-referencing. You end up in an endless circle
Oh, wow.
because of the stored procedure keeps calling itself. Recursion without an escape. So mine worked. There, as I said, there's one other thing that I would do about it. Yours is still giving you errors, or you got it?
No, God.
The only other thing that I would do is back where it says return user key, before I do the return user key, if everything is working well, I would probably also insert into the login history table. And basically what we need for the login history is the user key and then just the date. So I would just do get date at this point. And then values at user key. Oops, actually this is, what is the name of that column? Login history date. Is it date time?
Yeah.
And then values would be at user key. And then get date. Just because, so when you log in, the theory of the login history is that every time you log in, it would be recorded. So I'm going to run this all the way up to the altar again. And I will log in again. And that actually does give us some indication at least. So one row affected and one. And then I could do select star from login history. And I should have logged in twice now.
Yeah. Can you go off to the fixed one?
Yeah, so where I did that,
Yeah.
it's just an insert into login history. So what happens if when you test these things, you should test them for not only successful logins, but you should fail. Yeah, so if it fails right now, we're not logging failed logins, but let's say I just take the 1 off of that. When I run this, it should return a 0, which it does. So I didn't log in.
just put field one into it.
No, I mean, you could create a table for them if you wanted. And just, if I do, this should return a -1. Because the username doesn't exist. Yeah. I'm sure there is. Oh, because you just changed the case.
I don't know if any login systems are case sensitive. Do you?
They're case sensitive for passwords.
Password, yeah, but.
But I'm not sure ours is.
That's a big question. Yeah.
Yes, it would be. It would be case sensitive because the hash would hash differently. You're right. But that's something to test.
I mean, I have a big.
Would you put it in the application? Would you make it?
Okay, sensitive for random.
I'm gonna.
Our password's case sensitive.
I'm just going to do a lowercase p.
Oh, if you did that way.
Yeah, and I didn't do it, so it's case sensitive. That's because the characters will hash differently. So you can make the whole database case sensitive. It's an option. It's one of the database options to make the, it again doesn't make SQL case sensitive, but it makes the values case sensitive. But I don't know if there's a function. There may be a function that you can add that would make it case sensitive.
Because it would just be for that one database. It would
Yeah.
for everything.
Right, but you would want, I mean, presumably these would be in a database that would have other stuff in it. So it's a question if you want I know you can make it all case sensitive, but whether you want to do that or not, I don't know. There may be a function to do the other. So do you guys want to do another stored procedure, or is that enough for this morning? Or because there's also what to do to reset your password and what to do to recover a lost password. And we could do those if you want. I think actually these would be really useful stored procedures in almost any database that you had passwords like that. Did yours work?
Cool.
Oh,
What I printed.
the numbers, you have to do that print. Did you do that? Should return the numbers under messages.
Oh, oh, can you stop that? Oh. There,
When you're running this part, which where?
There, look at history right
On
here.
everything, and especially that exact one.
Is it history?
That one.
Oh, that shouldn't say completed successfully. I don't know if I structures, you guys. What is your, are you getting an error?
This is like a,
It's the select and the user key. Oh, yeah, equal.
oh,
Right, because I needed the user key, and this is a way to get values, assign values from a select statement to a variable. So like select at user key equals user key, at int random equals use. These are the fields in the table. So I'm taking the fields in the table and assigning their value to the variables in the select. Yeah, I wrote it.
Is it that he changed it right now?
He said do the same
Yeah.
No, I just,
location I'm gonna get.
Yeah.
Oh,
that one.
You just,
oh.
Yeah, because there's no lines ever there. It's so quick in that one. You
So
can walk in there.
Yeah, I just needed to know.
Right on your
what
wrist.
what changed it for the.
But yours like equal, like that between Rod and Bell. Or,
Yeah.
okay.
Brought in the old one, and then the lady said, "Oh, she's stable with all the information." kids fill it out and send it certified.
Probably the book is somewhere.
When you done?
Well, they got it.
I know the book is like, they have to do more books than we need.
Oh,
Just call them, just
Lord, she said it was okay, but there's a little bit of coffee spill, but not like on the actual important thing, but the other sheets, you know.
use the first page for it.
That's precisely why I've developed this whole
Right, and it's just like, she said it was fine. She's like, oh, no,
demeanor that
that's
I have
that's
where,
not very important, just write on the corner.
And then get down.
Yeah.
Remember.
Yeah. I'm gonna go just send it right on the class. Like,
Just try to.
don't force it on.
Too much. It's not, I'm not even gonna take it. It's really only 7 minutes long, you know? I mean, how much are you working? I mean, I don't know what else to do.
Well, you're gonna like take up the full 15
Oh,
minutes.
no,
I have only 4 minutes, it's gonna go very quick.
you know what, I'll try to eliminate some of these.
Is it still the same slide that you?
Just, I'm just gonna go very fast.
Can you get one? I had a Google Doc one, it was just like, they keep going. Yeah. Cool. So I will cut it. Here.
Is that on Twitter? Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all of that.
Okay.
And it does.
Password 8. Oh, okay, yeah. That's good. So close.
So, yeah, I'm trying to, if I can keep it, so I'm cutting out some stuff. That's what Well, I do prefer it, so the problem a lot to cut. There are some sentences.
Oh, you said you.
Which could be right. That's the music. So if we go back. Yes, so it's the issue is up here, there's no value. And so that caused an error, but we weren't printing in the error message. Just, oh,
Either take it to the other or take it over.
okay. So you can actually go with it.
Oh, that's what I'm breaking books and thinking. Like, what is this? I'm gonna tell them, here's my paper. I don't
Yeah.
really,
So
really
you
feel
can
that.
sign that.
You can, there's a lot.
So
It's so bad.
that's good to know.
You really would be surprised going through the bar line, and it just seems like it's
Yeah, probably. Well, we could do the other two on Tuesday if you want. So next week is our last week.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think Thursday I will make an totally open lab day. So if you have stuff to work on, you can. If you want to say goodbye, you can. Most of you are finishing up, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Wish I had some money. We should go have a beer or something.
I know. Why don't you just come to my work? Go to the funhouse. Yeah.
I always hate to, get to know people after 2 years and then you all go away.
Well, I think Mike's cool is having some kind of.
He usually does have something.
Yeah.
My problem is I don't live in town. And if I were to drink a lot, get on the bus. But I could actually come and not drink a lot. There's always that possibility.
Or I could just bring in beer.
Yeah. But anyway, so this afternoon and then Tuesday we will do something. I mean, we could finish this up on Tuesday. We could finish it up now, but I figure I'd give you a lunch. Yeah, I don't know. So if after Thursday, if I don't see you guys, at least keep in touch a little bit. I'll see you probably if you're doing the thing.
See, I'm by 3 o'clock today.
That's fine. You won't
I have not Google hackathon.
on Thursday or Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Okay. This isn't counting towards any grade or anything, so.
Could we go first?
Yeah, you can go first if you want. We'll spend probably like 10 minutes to do the evaluations again. I know they're boring, and then you guys can go, and then
Okay, we can.
yeah, whoever. I mean, if you guys,
I'm gonna have to leave 3:30.
you have to leave at 3:30.
We're going first.
Well, they need to go first.
Sorry. We can be third or Tuesday or whatever, it doesn't matter.
The thing is that so if you have to leave early and don't get, we can always do it on Tuesday also. I am curious to see them. I have actually all of them. They sound good. So if we don't get through all of them this afternoon, we can do, as I said, 1 or 2 on Tuesday, which you would miss. But what time is the hackathon all day?
What happened?
Google?
For what? What are you hackathon for?
It's like a usability thing. They've selected teams of developers. We have a feeling it has something to do with like Google's version of GitHub. Or like they're trying to create one. Oh, the GitHub ish. Yeah.
So is it open to the public or do you have to sign up somehow?
I think we signed up. Well, those of us who went to the Google Android thing, they told us about it there, and we signed up in the group, and then they called and said so it was kind of like they streamed you.
So kind of a GitHub for like posting Android code or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah, because they said come with ideas of an Android app to build on the spot.
Yeah, I was thinking of trying to write a book about just taking a simple Android concept and then keep adding features to it until eventually you have services on the cloud that you're trying to, etc. So the whole way through. Something really dumb and simple, but by the time you're done. I thought about doing it with the, brain is gone, paying tips, but actually a lot of people are using the tip assignment, so I think I'd do something different. Yeah, I know. And I've used it to death too, so I think I'd choose something else. Something though that starts off really simple and then goes into something much more complex. I thought of the tip because then you could go up and you could have sites where best practices and best practices by what area you're in and all sorts of things on the website. Well, there are a lot of things I don't know about what you're supposed to tip. Food is easy, 10, 15, 20%. I usually do 20. But what do you tip somebody a valet that parks your car? I have no idea.
Oh God, my company is constantly dealing with that because we guide trips that are run by tour operators, and you have guides, you have drivers, you have restaurants, you have porters, you have some, and
I have
they're
no
always like,
idea.
can you please tell us exactly how much we're supposed to tip every person we encounter? And we're like, we go to every continent on the planet and it's different everywhere you go. We don't really know.
So you could do a GPS thing to say, well, in this area, the trend is for.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Oh, wow. Everybody likes to tip no matter what, I'll tell you. It's better than not tipping.
Well, and in some places.
But some place you could over tip because it's not.
Yeah, I heard that in Berlin.
Like in Mexico.
Yeah,
Too much.
there are some places where culturally
We don't need to.
by handoffs
Yeah.
and it's not cool.
Yeah. And in you see Asian culture, we don't do tip at all.
Yeah.
I
they don't
know,
do that
I
here.
know,
Yeah,
whenever
it's
Japanese people used to
But
come
we
in,
tip
it
because
would
we
be nothing.
The book says like you're supposed to tip, so
Yeah.
that's why. But I have no clue because everything is included.
And the
But
Japanese
you
follow the
know.
book.
you
They
know.
read the book ahead.
Exactly. These grown men would come in, we'd be like, oh, you don't know. Oh, come.
You should say, you know what? You
Here's
have
a
to tip 20%.
And now it's caused problem in Thailand, like people don't want to work. They don't want to serve because they don't get tipped. They don't expect to get tipped.
Oh,
And they don't treat Thai people. They try to go to like expat
Oh my
because
god,
they don't
that's
they
crazy.
expect to get tipped.
See, ours is
Like
really good
taxes, they don't
service.
stop
No
for
tips whatsoever.
us.
They bow you all the
Aw.
time.
It's really hard. We don't get any
Oh my
taxi.
god, I bet. No, yeah. That's a
Wow,
shame.
that's bad.
It was bad. It's bad. And if you go to massage, right?
Oh yeah.
And they just like, if we give them tips.
Then I would do it.
No. They complain this is not as much as expect giving to them.
Well, yeah, in some places, I mean, it's
Oh,
To you,
It's-
you know?
Yeah.
not
Even if
just
you give them something,
gratuity. Some
Wow.
at
places
least
it's
they're
pretty
10 or 15,
required.
and then they still like,
this is not enough.
yeah.
Oh gee, that's bad.
Yeah, it's not like, I don't
Yeah,
want to be
it's like the
there.
same as Mexico, right? They say like you're supposed to be a tip, but the people tipping, so expecting American people to tip more. So just wait.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's,
I'm like, I ain't giving you a tip. It said no tip.
Exactly.